Welcome to World Cinema Reviews. My name is Frank the Vamp, and thank you so much for being here with me today. And the topic that I want to talk to you about, it's actually the defense of a remake. In 2009, uh, director um, Marcus Nispel, uh, you know, alongside produced by Michael Bay, decided to reboot the Friday the 13th series. And even though it was a financial success, you find a lot of people that hate this film. They don't really like it. They have a million reasons to say why this movie shouldn't have been made. You know, or they have other ideas where the series should have gone. But I'm here. I'm standing right here, right in front of you, to tell you that I want to defend Friday the 13th remake and to tell you that this is actually a very good picture. A very clever picture in many ways, very well thought of, and I'm completely surprised why companies still not having made a sequel to this, and they're thinking about reinventing it and rumors of making it a found footage film, which that's gonna be a huge mistake on in my idea. I don't think Jason is that type of fad, because that's all it is. I still believe that even though there's some good found footage films made, if you know Friday the 13th is remade in that certain fashion, I think it will bomb horribly. And but that's just this reviewer's opinion. But today, my my duty, my mission is to actually defend this reboot, to tell that this movie is actually very good. So, but the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna address a lot of questions. We're gonna talk a lot of questions and our negative statements, and I'm gonna try to turn the negatives into positives, and convince you that if you haven't seen this movie, you gotta see it. You gotta give it a chance. And if you've seen it and you didn't like it, maybe you gotta rewatch it. But you have to keep a few things in mind. Well, first of all, let's talk about the very few. I mean, just number one question that everybody has in mind. Was this reboot necessary? Why could just because people ask me, why don't you just pick it up from where it was? Why couldn't just follow the series and just make another movie? Well, the short answer to that is that we all remember what the two last films, besides Freddy versus Jason, besides that film that we know we can't really, because of many contractual and physical and because it was huge, that was an incredible film that got made, that we can't follow it up from there. We could try to follow it from Jason Goes to Hell or Jason X, but let's face it, those two are not really good. In fact, you can argue that, well, Jason X has some strong points, and it was fun in some ways. Jason Goes to Hell is really. I mean, I don't want to say it sucks because I like the series, but I mean it does suck. I mean, let's be honest. It's a film that's tough. I mean, Jason's not really in it. You have body hopping, and if you want to see a good review on Jason X, go to Boogeyman's Ben's page, because he really knows. I mean, Jason X and Jason Goes to Hell, and I think he would agree that these have severely flawed. Especially Jason Goes to Hell is really hard to watch, and you really needed to go to a different directions. That the filmmakers were just running out of ideas, so rebooting makes sense. So okay, so if you're gonna reboot it, why don't you just make it like Friday the 13th Part 1. You want to just start an origin story. They thought about that, but I think that the decision was actually made better. By the way, there's spoilers in this before, I'm gonna put it on the title, but just so you know, there's spoilers. So the movie just pretty much begins with Jason's mom, being the killer. So he kind of just picks it up. It kind of sort of starts after the first one, because he's just like, she's fighting a survivor, of her killing rampage, and she's pissed because what the teenagers did to Jason, why they let him drown, and she, but instead she gets killed, and Jason kind of sees the whole thing through, hidden through the bushes, and then he becomes a killer. And I think that the clever thing is really a combination. This film is really a combination of 1 through 4, and it's all into one. So we get Jason already wearing the hockey mask, but he doesn't do it right away. I love that there's a lot of wings to fans in this thing. So this film was really made for the fans and intelligent people who love the series and know what's going on. I mean, it goes through Backhead Jason is really scary here, which very underrated, by the way. Friday the 13th Part 2. I just love the fact that Backhead Jason came back. It's really terrifying. And the great thing is that he actually starts wearing the mask from part in from part 3 already in part 1. But the way it's done is that he struggles with some guy living in a farm that selling weed and stuff, and they have a and they have this this struggle, this fight, and then he kind of tears the bag head out, which requires him to search for something else to put on, and on the attic or basement, I can't remember, I think it was an attic, where he goes searching, he notices that there's a hockey mask there. So there's a reason why he puts it on, and the design of the hockey mask is very, is very 3 to 4. I can't believe it wasn't made for 3 or 4, but it's just so cool looking, and it looks aged, it looks just right, and it's so the actual, so okay, so now let's move on to Jason. We're gonna break it down into two things. Let's talk about Derek Mears, and then we'll talk about the character. Um, there was a deciding change on Jason. If you can remember Kane Hodder, being this just gigantic man, imposing man, and that worked for Jason. That worked for that Jason. But they kind of wanted to get away from that look. They wanted to make this guy more, uh, a more quicker, faster, kind of, fearsome in more of a compact. Um, how can I say? It was designed more as a quicker, more menacing machine, rather than this imposing monster. Very Mir's physique, it's more of a, like there's a couple of scenes where he just runs you down. I mean, he has speed. He's just like, how can I say? He more is a more athletic. I think that's a word that I wanted to find. So it's not just this gigantic, slower monster, that will sneak up on you and just once gets a grip, and you could easily outrun him. No, not this guy. He brings up, and he's brutal, and the way he swings that machete is for reals. This is a true Jason, and as the so sort of as far as talking to Derek Mears, what I hear from people that that have seen him and met him and talked to him, he's like kind of like the nicest person ever, you know. So he's a really cool guy, and he's really campaigns for the characters. He really loves the character. He really loves portraying Jason, and that's and what can you say? I mean, the, what else can you ask for somebody that he sees interpreting this character according to some things that he has said. No, that he looks at, he's not just an actor with a mask. He's not just some guy with a mask. He's actually giving a performance. So he's really giving it his all. Even though think about it, it's a pretty tough role. It's a non-speaking role, and you cannot just and it's a lot of physical work on this one. But I mean, there's he does act, um, and he does act well. And there's a couple of scenes. I mean, I love his, the scene without the mask, his deformity. It's very much looking like part two. So we have this deformed Jason, very menacing, very creepy. Like I said, love the baghead once again. So definitely Jason, the character, it's scarier in different ways. Maybe it's not as imposing as Kane Hodder, but it's more like a swifter, quicker, more menacing machine that could run you down and kill you. And definitely, yeah. There's what else? What else would people tell me that they didn't like about the movie? Some people criticize the acting. Well, let's remember this is a slasher film, and slasher films have always had problems with the acting. But if you think about it, some of the strongest films in the series to me have always had pretty good acting. Um, we go back to all the way for part one with Betsy Palmer. Giving a pretty good performance there. And by the way, if you guys want to see my original Friday the 13th video, I'll put the link in the description. But we have in this case, we definitely have a pretty good acting by Derek Mears. Oh yeah, and talking about good actors in this series. What about Corey Feldman? That's a I just really liked him as one of my favorites in the series. But coming back to now, Derek Mears is really good as Jason, but and to be honest, so most of the other actors are kind of like cartoonish performances from, and they're not the strong point of the film. Some of them they go from the, I mean, they go from the slot to the jock to the jerk to the rich jerk to that they just kind of playing characters with the exception of one of the actors that I really enjoy. His name is Aaron Yu, and he plays the stoner, which kind of plays a homage to the stoners on part three. Were really funny. The two stoners are fun, but Aaron Yu he's just so over the top. He's just so silly, man, and he's so funny. I mean, he does jokes all the time. I love it when he's gonna drink the flaming shot, and then he burns his mouth, and he's trying to hit on this girl, and he just does it all wrong, and he's such a stunner. He's just really funny. I mean, I think that he does steal the show, and he does really well, really well. The other ones not so much. So yeah, that's a knock on the movie. But on its own, I mean, it, it's just bringing back Jason and all the other things and a well-written story makes up for it to me. Um, so if oh yeah, and you just can't forget the cool kills. The iconic kills are back. I mean, it's like there's just so many of them done, and you just gotta give it up for, how creative they got. There's some brutal kills there. There's some brutal kills, and I really like the way they that they get Jason in this one too. You know, pretty nice. But really, I mean, the way the iconic kills are back and they're plentiful. So definitely, you just gotta. You just gotta like it. And and there's even the long distance one with the arrow one. That was a pretty cool one too. I don't think that Jason has shot an arrow before. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was cool. I think that's a good, hey, it makes it more menacing knowing that he's got some shooting repertoire too, other than the machete. So cool stuff, man. So the other question is, okay, if you believe, Frank the Vamp, if you think that this is, this is a pretty one, how would you rank it in this series? I think this is one of, I think this is a strong, a strong performance as far as how does it rank in this series? Um, Man, I don't know. Part six really good. Part four, three are really really good. I love part one, part two, and it's really strong. I would say there's a ranking in somewhere in the middle. Yeah, I didn't. Once I did like parts of Jason Takes Manhattan, but I definitely don't like you know Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. I could be without. So I think definitely this is better than those two. Definitely better than Jason Goes to Hell. Definitely better than Jason X. Um, I mean, they're saying that this is better than Part Seven also. So I will say it's somewhere between 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2. Like one. We'll say I will rank it somewhere in the middle. So we're 3 out of 6, 3 out of 7. So this is a good, strong, as far as so there you go. I mean, so this is a very strong reboot, and it has a lot of possibilities for beginning. I like the ending, all ending up in the lake. Um, Coming back another, the mass floating and all the stuff, and him coming out in the end and getting them again, sort of in part one, kind of sneaking in. Yeah, I mean, it's overall, this is just very unfairly treated. I mean, you got the love for the fans being made. You got a very cool, rebirth of Jason, reinventing of Jason. A combination of Phase 1 through 4 and opening possibilities for new storylines, for new exciting things, perhaps even making it with better acting. Yeah, I mean, I think not giving this film a chance is wrong because, if you think, oh, yeah, it all sucks. Um, yeah, like for example, the Friday, the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, it's that one I didn't like it much at all. I'm gonna make another video. But this is done much better, in my opinion. So, I mean, if you've seen it, give it a rewatch, and keep in mind all the love and effort that went into it, and the possibilities of rebirth. If you haven't seen it, give it a shot. If you've seen it, give it a rewatch. That's all I'm asking. So, in my humble opinion, this is a good film. Go somewhere between 1 through 6. Uh, you know, um, Even better than part 7. So there you go. So those are my thoughts. Please subscribe if you like me. Please leave comments whether you like this film or not, and if you want to chime in with any of your ideas. It's been a pleasure talking about this for you guys. I hope to come up with much more videos, much more. I have a few ideas of 80s movie showdowns. Feel free to include those if you guys want to see any movies go against each other, and maybe even do some non-horror 80s showdown. Just like I did my martial arts one. There might be some other ones, and just be blessed. Take care. See you next video.